7 years ago. It wasn't when she woke up in that hospital bed to complete silence, or when the doctors told her the damage was permanent. It wasn't even when she had to learn to read lips and communicate through text messages and sign language. No, the worst moment came on a Tuesday afternoon when she stood in her own kitchen and heard her husband's voice for the first time in 7 years, saying words she wished she'd never heard. "I can't wait to be done with her, baby. Living with a deaf woman is like living with a ghost. She just floats around the house, useless. I've given her 7 years of my life and I'm done. Once we get through this next month, we can finally be together for real." Naomi's hand froze on the kitchen counter. Her legs went weak. The glass of water she'd been holding slipped from her fingers and shattered on the tile floor, but Trevor didn't come running. He didn't hear it from where he sat in his home office, door closed, speaking on the phone with the woman he'd apparently chosen over his wife. The experimental treatment had worked. 3 weeks ago, Dr. Roberts had performed a procedure that everyone said was risky, that probably wouldn't work, that she shouldn't get her hopes up about. But it had worked. The hearing had come back gradually over the past week, sounds filtering in like someone slowly turning up the volume on a radio. First, it was just vibrations she could feel. Then muffled sounds. Then yesterday, everything came rushing back in full clarity. She had been so excited to tell Trevor. She'd planned a special dinner for tonight. She was going to surprise him, maybe play their wedding song, show him that she could hear his voice again after all these years. She'd imagined his face lighting up, imagined him holding her and crying tears of joy. Instead, she stood in broken glass, listening to her husband plot her betrayal. "Brooke, you know I love you," Trevor continued, his voice carrying down the hallway. Naomi moved closer, her heart pounding so loud she worried he might somehow sense it. "I never loved Naomi the way I love you. Even before the accident, she was just there. Convenient. But you're everything I want." Naomi pressed her back against the wall outside his office door. The door wasn't fully closed. Through the crack, she could see him leaning back in his leather chair, his feet up on the desk, a smile on his face she hadn't seen in years. "The house is almost ready to list," he said. "My lawyer says once we prove she's unable to make her own decisions, I can have her placed in a care facility. Then everything becomes mine. The house, the business, all of it. We'll sell it all and start fresh in California just like we planned." Naomi's breath caught in her throat. A care facility? Her mind raced. She was perfectly capable. She'd learned to adapt to her deafness. She managed the household, paid the bills through their online banking, went to her art therapy sessions, maintained her friendships through video calls and text messages. What was he talking about? "I've been documenting everything," Trevor continued, and Naomi heard the sound of papers shuffling. How she forgets things. How she seems confused. Her therapist notes about depression. It's all building a case that she needs professional care. And once she's declared incompetent, I'm her husband. I make the decisions. The depression. Yes, she'd been sad. Who wouldn't be after losing something as fundamental as hearing? But she'd worked through it. She'd found joy again in painting, in her friends, in the small pleasures of life. She'd thought Trevor had been supportive through it all. She'd thought he was her partner, her rock. She'd been so wrong. "I know, baby, I know," Trevor said, his voice taking on that gentle tone he used to use with Naomi. "Just a few more weeks. Her birthday is coming up. I'll take her out, make her think everything is fine, and then we'll drop the paperwork on her. She won't even know what's happening until it's done. And the best part? She can't even call anyone to tell them. By the time she figures out how to text for help, we'll have everything locked down." Naomi felt something crack inside her chest, but it wasn't her heart breaking. It was something else. Something harder. Something colder. Trevor laughed at something Brooke said on the other end. "Yeah, she's probably taking one of her long naps right now. She does that every day. Just lies there like she's already dead. Honestly, the facility might be better for her anyway. At least there she'll have people whose job it is to pretend to care about her." Naomi backed away from the door slowly, carefully, her mind working faster than it had in years. She moved back to the kitchen and looked down at the broken glass still scattered across the floor. With steady hands, she grabbed the broom and dustpan and cleaned it up, each movement deliberate and quiet. When Trevor emerged from his office 20 minutes later, Naomi was sitting at the kitchen table with her sketch pad, drawing like she did every afternoon. She didn't look up when he walked in. She couldn't trust her eyes not to give her away yet. He tapped her shoulder and she turned, arranging her face into the patient, gentle expression she'd worn for 7 years. He signed to her, his movements lazy and imprecise. "Making dinner tonight?" She nodded and signed back. "Chicken and rice?" "Sure, whatever, he signed, already turning away, pulling out his phone. Naomi watched him walk to the living room and flop down on the couch, his fingers flying across his phone screen. Texting Brooke, probably. Planning their future. Planning to erase Naomi from her own life. She turned back to her sketch pad, but her hand was shaking now. Not with fear. With rage. With determination. She had been deaf for 7 years, but she hadn't been blind. She'd learned to read people, to watch their expressions, to sense the truth in their body language. She'd just chosen to believe the best in Trevor because she loved him. Because she trusted him. That trust was dead now, shattered like the glass on the kitchen floor. But Trevor didn't know she could hear again. That was her advantage. That was her weapon. Naomi picked up her pencil and began to draw, but she wasn't sketching the usual landscapes and still life compositions she'd been working on. She was drawing a plan. A timeline. A strategy. Trevor thought he was going to make her disappear, lock her away, steal her life. He had no idea that the woman he'd underestimated for 7 years could hear every word he said. And she was going to use every single one of those words against him. The performance of a lifetime was about to begin, and Naomi Patterson was ready to play the role of the deaf, oblivious wife one last time. But this time she was directing the show. And the ending was going to be very different from what Trevor had planned. Naomi woke up the next morning to the sound of Trevor's alarm blaring. For a moment, she forgot to pretend and nearly reached over to hit the snooze button herself. She caught herself just in time, remaining still as Trevor groaned and slammed his hand down on the phone. She kept her eyes closed as he got out of bed, listening to his footsteps pad across the carpet to the bathroom. The shower turned on. She heard him humming, actually humming like he was happy. Like he wasn't plotting to destroy his wife's life. When he came out, she pretended to just be waking up, stretching and yawning. He glanced at her but didn't try to communicate. He just got dressed and left the room. That was how most of their mornings went now, she realized. He barely acknowledged her unless he needed something. Naomi got up and went through her morning routine, but with her hearing back, everything was different. She could hear the coffee maker gurgling downstairs, the sound of Trevor's dress shoes on the hardwood floor, the television news playing in the living room. She'd forgotten how noisy life was. She came downstairs and found Trevor eating cereal at the kitchen counter, his phone propped up against the fruit bowl, watching something. She moved to make her own breakfast, and that's when she heard it clearly. Trevor was watching a video and Brooke's voice was coming from his phone. "I can't believe we have to wait another month," Brooke was saying. "I'm tired of hiding." Trevor's voice responded from the video. "I know, babe. But we have to be smart about this. If we rush it, she might actually fight back. This way, she won't even see it coming." Naomi's hand tightened on the coffee pot, but she kept her expression neutral, her back to Trevor. "She's so pathetic," Brooke continued. "Did you see her at that grocery store last month? She was trying to tell the cashier something and couldn't get the words out right. I almost felt bad for her." "Almost." Trevor laughed. Actually laughed. "She's gotten worse with her speech. That works in our favor. Makes it easier to prove she needs help." Naomi poured her coffee with steady hands. Inside she was screaming. Outside she was calm. She sat down at the table with her coffee and her phone, pretending to scroll through her messages. Trevor didn't even look at her. He finished his cereal, put his bowl in the sink without rinsing it, and grabbed his briefcase. He came over and tapped her shoulder. She looked up with a pleasant expression. He signed, "Working late tonight. Don't wait up." She nodded and signed back, "Okay. Have a good day." He was already walking away before her hands stopped moving. The moment the front door closed, Naomi stood up and went straight to Trevor's home office. She had maybe 20 minutes before he realized he'd forgotten something and came back. He always forgot something. The office was unlocked. Why would he lock it? His deaf wife couldn't hear him on the phone, couldn't understand what he was doing. He'd gotten careless. Naomi sat down at his computer. She didn't know his password, but she knew Trevor. She tried their anniversary. Nothing. Her birthday. Nothing. Then, on a hunch, she tried Brooke's name with a few numbers. The screen unlocked. Her stomach turned. He changed his password to his mistress's name. She plugged in the flash drive she'd brought and started copying files. Bank statements, emails, documents. Everything. Her hands moved quickly, her eyes scanning the screen, her heart racing. She had to be smart about this. She couldn't let him know she'd been in here. The emails were the worst. 3 years of correspondence with Brooke. 3 years of lies, of stolen moments, of planning. They'd started the affair just 4 years after Naomi's accident. When she was still struggling to adapt, still grieving the loss of her hearing, still thinking Trevor was her safe place. He'd called her a burden. He told Brooke that Naomi was broken and not a real wife anymore. He joked about how easy it was to talk about her right in front of her because she couldn't hear. There was an email from 2 months ago that made Naomi's blood run cold. From Trevor Patterson to Brooke Hamilton. Subject: the plan. B. Talk to my lawyer buddy Greg. He says the easiest way to get full control is to have her declared mentally incompetent. With her disability and her depression history, it shouldn't be hard. I've been keeping notes on every time she seems confused or forgetful. I might have exaggerated a few incidents, but who's going to question me? I'm her devoted husband who's been taking care of her for years. Once she's in a facility, we can sell the house and the business. I've already got buyers interested. We're talking about clearing at least $800K after everything. California, here we come. Miss you. Can't wait to not have to hide anymore. $800,000. Their house, the graphic design business Naomi had helped him build before her accident, everything they'd worked for together, he was selling it all and planning to leave her with nothing. Naomi copied every email, every document, every piece of evidence she could find. The flash drive was nearly full when she heard it, the garage door opening. She yanked the flash drive out, closed all the windows, made sure everything looked exactly as it had, and rushed out of the office. She made it to the living room just as the door from the garage opened. Trevor walked in looking annoyed. "Forgot my presentation folder," he said out loud, not bothering to sign since he thought she couldn't hear him anyway. Naomi looked up from her phone and gave him a questioning look. He waved her off and went to his office. She heard him rummaging around, then cursing. "Where did I put it?" She stayed frozen on the couch, her heart hammering. Had she moved something? Left something out of place? After what felt like an eternity, Trevor came out with a folder. He glanced at her, and for a moment their eyes met. Naomi made sure her expression showed nothing but mild interest. He left again without signing goodbye. Naomi waited until she heard his car pull out of the driveway. Then she waited another 5 minutes. Then she locked all the doors, went upstairs to their bedroom and pulled out the flash drive. She spent the next 4 hours going through everything she'd copied. She made lists, took notes, organized the evidence. The emails alone were damaging enough, but there was more. Bank statements showing transfers to accounts she didn't know about. Documents showing Trevor had already met with a real estate agent about listing their house. A contract with a luxury apartment complex in Los Angeles with both Trevor's and Brooke's names on it. They'd been planning this for at least 6 months. They had everything ready. They were just waiting for the right moment to spring it on her. But there was something else in the files, something that made Naomi pause. An email from Brooke to Trevor from last week. "I'm getting nervous. What if she's not as out of it as you think? What if she can tell something's wrong? I know she can't hear us, but she's not stupid. She might sense something. Also, we need to talk about the money. I think we should take more. She doesn't need much if she's in a facility anyway. Why should she get anything? You've taken care of her for years. You deserve it all." B. Trevor's response made Naomi's hands shake. "Don't worry about Naomi. She's completely in the dark. She trusts me completely. It's actually kind of sad how much she still looks at me like I'm her hero. She has no idea what's coming. And you're right about the money. I've been thinking the same thing. Once she's declared incompetent, I'm her legal guardian. I control everything. We can take it all. She won't be able to stop us." Naomi closed the laptop and sat in silence for a long moment. The house was quiet except for the ticking of the clock on the wall, a sound she'd forgotten existed. She wasn't sad anymore. She wasn't hurt. She was focused. Trevor thought she was helpless. He thought her disability made her weak, made her easy to manipulate and discard. He was about to learn just how wrong he was. Naomi picked up her phone and texted her friend Simone, someone she'd known since college, someone who'd stayed in touch through everything. "Need to talk. Can you come over tomorrow? It's important." Simone's response came immediately. "Of course. Everything okay?" Naomi stared at the message for a moment, then typed, "No. But it will be." She spent the rest of the day documenting everything. She took photos of the emails on her laptop screen. She made copies of copies. She stored files in 3 different cloud accounts Trevor didn't know about. She created a paper trail that couldn't be erased or explained away. When Trevor came home that night at almost 11, Naomi was in bed, pretending to be asleep. She heard him stumble in, smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. He didn't shower. He just got into bed and turned away from her. She lay there in the dark, listening to him breathe, listening to him fall asleep without a care in the world. He had no idea the woman lying next to him could hear everything now. He had no idea she knew all his secrets. He had no idea that while he'd been planning her destruction, she'd been gathering the evidence that would destroy him instead. Tomorrow she'd start building her team. She'd find a lawyer, a good one, someone who specialized in cases like this. She'd get her medical records from Dr. Roberts, proof that her hearing had returned, documentation of the timeline. Trevor thought he was the one in control, pulling all the strings. But Naomi had spent 7 years watching, observing, learning to read people without sound. She'd become an expert at seeing what people tried to hide. And now she could hear too. Trevor Patterson had no idea what was coming for him. But he was going to find out. Simone arrived at 10 in the morning, her face full of concern. She was a tall woman with short natural hair and warm brown eyes that had always seen right through Naomi's attempts to hide her feelings. When Naomi opened the door, Simone pulled her into a hug. "Girl, what's going on? You sounded upset in your text and..." Simone pulled back, her eyes going wide. "Did you just hear me? Naomi, did you hear what I said?" Naomi pulled her friend inside quickly and closed the door. "I can hear," she said, her voice rusty from years of limited use but getting stronger every day. "The surgery worked. But Simone, you can't tell anyone. Especially not Trevor." "Why not? This is amazing news. You must be so..." Simone stopped, reading Naomi's expression. "What happened? What did that man do?" They sat in the living room and Naomi told her everything. About overhearing Trevor on the phone. About the emails. About the plan to have her declared incompetent and locked away. About Brooke. About the money. Everything. By the time she finished, Simone was on her feet, pacing back and forth, her hands clenched into fists. "I'm going to kill him." "No, wait, you said no weapons in your story." "I'm going to ruin him." That sorry excuse for a man. How could he? You stood by him through everything. You helped him build that business. You supported his dreams. And this is how he repays you. "I need your help," Naomi said quietly. "I need to be smart about this. I can't let him know I know. Not yet." Simone sat back down, taking deep breaths to calm herself. Okay. What do you need?" "A lawyer. A really good one. Someone who handles divorces and fraud cases. Someone who won't mess around." "I know someone," Simone said immediately. "My cousin's ex-husband tried to hide assets during their divorce. Her lawyer found everything and took him apart in court. Let me call her." Within an hour, they had an appointment set up for the next day with attorney Patricia Foster. Simone insisted on going with her. "You're not doing this alone," she said firmly. The next morning, Naomi told Trevor she was going to her regular art therapy session. He barely looked up from his phone when she signed the information to him. She drove to downtown instead, where attorney Foster's office occupied the entire 10th floor of a glass building. Patricia Foster was a woman in her 50s with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun and sharp, intelligent eyes. She shook Naomi's hand firmly and gestured for her and Simone to sit. "Simone told me a little bit about your situation," Patricia said, her voice professional but kind. "But I'd like to hear it from you." Naomi took a deep breath and told the story again. This time she played some of the recordings she'd made. She showed Patricia the emails she'd copied. She laid out all the evidence she'd gathered over the past 2 days. Patricia's expression grew darker as she reviewed everything. "This is financial fraud, attempted exploitation of a person with a disability, and conspiracy to commit fraud," she said. "What your husband is planning isn't just morally wrong, it's criminal." "Can we stop him?" Naomi asked. "We can do better than that," Patricia said, leaning forward. "We can make sure he loses everything he was planning to steal from you. But we need to be strategic. We need to build an airtight case before we reveal your hand." Over the next 2 hours they built a plan. Patricia explained that they needed to document everything, every conversation, every financial transaction, every interaction. She needed Naomi to get copies of all bank statements, property deeds, business documents, everything. "Don't let him know you're gathering this information," Patricia warned. "The moment he suspects something, he'll start hiding evidence and moving money. We need him to think he's still in control." "How long will this take?" Naomi asked. "If we're thorough? About 3 weeks. Maybe a month. I know that seems like a long time to keep pretending, but we need to build an ironclad case. We need to show a pattern of behavior, documented proof of his intent to defraud you, and evidence of the affair that will counter any claims he makes about you being unstable." Naomi nodded slowly. "I can do that. I've been pretending for 7 years. I can pretend for another month." "There's something else," Patricia said. "We need to get your medical records from Dr. Roberts. Complete documentation of your hearing loss and your recovery. That's crucial. It proves that you were fully capable of understanding what was happening around you, and it shows that Trevor was exploiting your disability. I'll call Dr. Roberts today, Naomi said. Good. Also, I want you to open a new bank account that Trevor doesn't know about. Start moving money there, not a lot at once, but enough to ensure you have resources. Use cash from grocery shopping, take out small amounts from ATMs, whatever you can do without raising suspicion. Patricia handed Naomi a folder. This is a list of documents I need you to get. Take your time, be careful, but be thorough. And Naomi? Don't confront him. No matter what you hear, no matter what he does, don't let him know you're aware of any of this. The element of surprise is our biggest advantage. What about the other woman? Simone asked. Brooke, does she face any consequences? If she knew about the plan to defraud Naomi, she could be charged as an accessory, Patricia said. But our main focus is Trevor. He's the one who took vows, who had legal and moral obligations to Naomi. We'll deal with Brooke as part of the overall case. When they left the office, Naomi felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope. Not hope that things would go back to the way they were, but hope that she could build something new, something better, something that was truly hers. Over the next 2 weeks, Naomi became an expert at gathering evidence. When Trevor was at work, she photographed every document in his office. She found the key to his locked desk drawer and discovered more evidence. Texts he'd printed out, planning notes, even a proposal for the California apartment complex that showed he'd already paid a deposit. She recorded every phone conversation he had with Brooke. She documented every late night he claimed to be working. She tracked every penny he moved from their accounts. She also did something else. She started reclaiming her life. She called Dr. Roberts and scheduled follow-up appointments to document her hearing recovery. She started speaking more, practicing her voice, rebuilding the confidence that 7 years of silence had eroded. She reached out to old friends she'd lost touch with. She joined an online community for people who had recovered from hearing loss. She started painting again, really painting, not just the therapeutic sketches she'd been doing but real art that expressed what she was feeling. And she started imagining her future. A future without Trevor. A future where she wasn't defined by what she'd lost but by what she could build. One night, 3 weeks after discovering the truth, Trevor came home early. Naomi was in the kitchen cooking dinner. She heard him come in, heard him on the phone. Tomorrow, he was saying, I'm meeting with the doctor tomorrow to discuss the evaluation. Once we have that, we can move forward with everything else. Naomi's blood ran cold. The evaluation. He was actually moving forward with trying to have her declared incompetent. She texted Patricia immediately. He's moving forward with the evaluation. What do I do? Patricia's response came quickly. Perfect. Let him. We have everything we need. Time to spring our trap. Come to my office tomorrow morning at 9. Bring everything. That night, Naomi lay awake in bed, listening to Trevor snore beside her. This was it. Tomorrow everything would change. She wasn't scared. She wasn't sad. She was ready. Trevor had spent 3 years planning to destroy her life. Tomorrow she was going to destroy his plans instead. She thought about the woman she'd been before the accident. Confident, strong, successful. She thought about the woman she'd become after, struggling but resilient, adapting to a world without sound. And she thought about who she was becoming now. Someone who wouldn't let anyone take advantage of her again. Trevor stirred in his sleep, and Naomi looked at him in the darkness. She felt nothing. No love, no hate, not even anger anymore. Just determination. Tomorrow the performance would end. Tomorrow, Trevor would discover that the woman he'd thought was helpless had been watching, listening, and planning all along. Tomorrow justice would begin. Naomi arrived at Patricia's office at 8:30 in the morning, carrying a box full of documents, flash drives, and folders. She'd barely slept, but adrenaline kept her sharp and focused. Patricia was already there, coffee in hand, looking ready for battle. Good morning, she said. Are you ready for this? More than ready, Naomi replied. They spent the next hour going through everything one final time. Patricia's assistant, a young man named Jerome, helped organize all the evidence into a comprehensive file. Bank statements, emails, recordings, photos, medical records, everything laid out in chronological order, telling the story of Trevor's betrayal and attempted fraud. This is exceptional work, Patricia said, impressed. You've documented everything perfectly. The recordings alone are damning, but combined with the financial evidence in the emails, Trevor won't have a leg to stand on. What happens now? Naomi asked. Now we file for divorce. We also file a motion for an emergency restraining order to prevent Trevor from moving or hiding any assets. We're going to freeze everything, the bank accounts, the business, the house, all of it. And we're sending copies of this evidence to the police and the State Bar Association because what Trevor was planning constitutes fraud and possibly elder abuse statutes, even though you're not elderly. Exploiting a person with a disability for financial gain is a serious crime. Will he go to jail? Naomi asked. Possibly. At minimum, he'll face civil penalties and lose his business license. But let's focus on protecting you and your assets first. Criminal charges can follow. At 10 o'clock, a process server arrived at Patricia's office. He was given a thick envelope containing divorce papers, restraining orders, and legal notices. You know where to find Trevor Patterson? Patricia asked. His office address is here, the server confirmed. I'll have him served within the hour. After the server left, Patricia turned to Naomi. Now comes the hard part. Waiting. Trevor will be served at his office, which means he'll react publicly. He'll try to call you. He'll come to the house. You need to be ready for that. I'm staying with Simone for a few days, Naomi said. I packed a bag last night. I don't want to be there when he finds out. Smart? Patricia nodded. But before you go, there's one more thing we need to do. We need to access those hidden accounts Trevor created. How? I don't have the passwords or account numbers for most of them. Patricia smiled. No, but we have something better. We have a court order. I've already filed an emergency motion with a judge this morning, showing evidence that Trevor has been hiding marital assets. The judge granted us access to all financial records. By this afternoon, we'll have complete records of every account, every transfer, every penny Trevor tried to hide. While they waited for the financial records to come through, Patricia's team worked on building the case. Jerome pulled together a timeline of Trevor's affair with Brooke. Another paralegal compiled all the evidence of Trevor's plan to have Naomi institutionalized. At 11:30, Patricia's phone rang. She answered, listened for a moment, then smiled. Thank you, she said and hung up. Trevor has been served. According to the process server, he turned white and started yelling. Security had to escort the server out. Naomi's phone started buzzing. Trevor was calling, then texting, then calling again. What is this? Call me right now, this is insane, we need to talk. Naomi, answer your phone. Patricia watched the messages come in. Don't respond. Not yet. Let him panic. Let him wonder what you know and how you know it. By noon, the financial records started arriving. Patricia spread them across the conference table, and what they revealed was even worse than Naomi had thought. Trevor had been stealing from their accounts for over 2 years. Small amounts at first, then larger sums. He'd opened accounts in Brooke's name. He'd taken out a loan against their house without Naomi's knowledge, using forged documents. He'd moved inventory from their business into a storage unit registered to Brooke. He'd even sold some of Naomi's jewelry, pieces her grandmother had left her, and pocketed the money. This is over $200,000 in hidden or stolen assets, Patricia said, her voice cold with anger. Plus the house equity he tried to steal. Plus the business value. We're looking at potential damages in the 7-figure range. How did he forge my signature? Naomi asked, looking at the loan documents. He probably practiced or traced it, Jerome said. But that's document fraud. That's a felony. Naomi's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Trevor was spiraling. The bank accounts are frozen, I can't access the business account. What did you do? This is all a misunderstanding, please call me, I love you, we can fix this. That last message made Naomi laugh, a bitter sound. Now he loves me. How convenient. At 2 in the afternoon, Patricia's phone rang again. She listened, her eyebrows rising. Really? Thank you for letting me know. She hung up and looked at Naomi. Trevor just showed up at the courthouse trying to file an emergency motion to unfreeze the accounts. The clerk recognized his name from our filings and refused to help him without a lawyer present. He caused a scene and courthouse security removed him. Naomi's phone rang again, but this time it wasn't Trevor. It was an unknown number. She looked at Patricia, who nodded. Naomi answered and put it on speaker. Naomi? A woman's voice, shaky and upset. This is Brooke. We need to talk. Patricia made a cutting motion across her throat, signaling Naomi not to engage. But Naomi was curious. What do you want? Naomi asked, her voice steady. Trevor said you filed for divorce. He said you're trying to take everything. That's not fair. He's been taking care of you for years. You can't just... I can hear you, Naomi interrupted quietly. Silence on the other end. I can hear every word you're saying, Brooke. I could hear you 3 weeks ago when you and Trevor were on the phone talking about how pathetic I am. I could hear you planning to steal my life. I heard everything. More silence. Then, you can hear? I had surgery. My hearing came back. And the first thing I heard was my husband telling you how much he couldn't wait to get rid of me. So yes, Brooke, I filed for divorce. And yes, I'm taking what's mine. Every penny Trevor stole. Every asset he tried to hide. All of it. I didn't know, Brooke stammered. Trevor said you couldn't hear. He said. He lied to you too, Naomi said. That's what he does. He lies. And now you're part of his crimes. I hope it was worth it. She hung up. Patricia was grinning. That was perfect. She's going to run now. I bet within 24 hours, she tries to distance herself from Trevor completely. Good, Naomi said. Let her run. I don't care about her. I care about making sure Trevor can't do this to anyone else. By the end of the day, Patricia had filed a comprehensive legal brief with the court outlining Trevor's fraud, his affair, his plan to have Naomi institutionalized, and his theft of marital assets. She'd also sent a letter to Trevor's business partners informing them of the legal proceedings and suggesting they might want to consult their own attorneys about Trevor's handling of company finances. What happens next? Naomi asked as she prepared to leave. We have a court hearing in 3 days, Patricia said. The judge will review all of this evidence and make preliminary rulings on asset division and support. Trevor will have to respond to the fraud allegations. And if the district attorney decides to press criminal charges, that will be a separate process. Will I have to see him? At the hearing? Yes, but I'll be right there with you. And Naomi? You've already won. He just doesn't know it yet. That evening, Naomi sat in Simone's guest room, looking through the window at the sunset. Her phone had finally stopped buzzing. Trevor had given up trying to call her. She thought about the woman she'd been that Tuesday afternoon 3 weeks ago, standing in her kitchen, hearing those devastating words for the first time. That woman had been shocked, hurt, broken. The woman she was now was different, stronger, clearer about what she deserved and what she wouldn't accept. She picked up her sketch pad and started drawing. Not a plan this time, just art. She drew her own face but different. Eyes open wide, expression fierce. In the background she drew chains breaking, falling away. Freedom. That's what she was drawing. Her own freedom. Trevor had tried to cage her, to erase her, to make her disappear. Instead, he'd awakened something in her she didn't know was there. A fighter. A survivor. A woman who wouldn't go down without making sure the truth came to light. In 3 days they'd face each other in court. In 3 days Trevor would have to answer for what he'd done. Naomi smiled as she added the final touches to her drawing. She was ready. The morning of the court hearing, Naomi dressed carefully. She chose a navy blue dress that was professional but showed she wasn't trying to appear weak or fragile. She wore her hair natural, pulled back in a neat bun. She looked exactly like what she was, a competent, intelligent woman who had been wronged. Simone drove her to the courthouse. You've got this, Simone said as they pulled into the parking lot. He's the one who should be scared, not you. I'm not scared, Naomi said. And she meant it. She'd spent 3 weeks preparing for this moment. She knew exactly what she was walking into. Patricia met them in the hallway outside the courtroom. Trevor's here with his lawyer, she said. From what I can tell, they're scrambling. His lawyer is Richard Foster. No relation to me, and he's good, but he's working with a terrible case. Has Trevor tried to talk to you? Naomi asked. His lawyer requested a settlement conference. I declined. We're going straight to the judge. They entered the courtroom. Naomi saw Trevor immediately. He was sitting at the defendant's table with his lawyer, a tall man in an expensive suit. When Trevor saw Naomi, he stood up. Naomi, please, he said, starting to walk toward her. Mr. Patterson, sit down, the bailiff ordered. Trevor's lawyer pulled him back to his seat, whispering urgently in his ear. Naomi didn't look at Trevor again. She sat down next to Patricia and focused on the judge's bench. Judge Karen Williams entered and everyone rose. She was a black woman in her 60s with an expression that said she'd seen everything and wasn't impressed by much. Please be seated, she said, settling into her chair. We're here for the emergency hearing in the matter of Patterson versus Patterson. I've reviewed the filings from both parties and I have some questions. She looked directly at Trevor. Mr. Patterson, I've read some disturbing allegations here. According to your wife's filing, you've been planning to have her declared mentally incompetent despite knowing she's perfectly capable of managing her own affairs. You've been hiding assets. You've been having an affair. And you forged her signature on loan documents. What do you have to say about this? Trevor's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, my client denies these allegations. Mrs. Patterson has been suffering from depression following her disability. We believe she may be confused or misinterpreting innocent actions. Mr. Patterson has been a devoted husband who... I can speak for myself, Your Honor, Naomi said quietly. The judge looked at her. Mrs. Patterson, you have something to say? Naomi stood up. Your Honor, my husband doesn't know I can hear him. I had surgery 3 weeks ago. My hearing came back. The first thing I heard was him on the phone with his mistress, planning to have me locked away in a care facility so he could steal everything we've built together. The courtroom went completely silent. Trevor stood up, his face pale. You can hear? Since when? Sit down, Mr. Patterson, the judge said sharply. She looked at Naomi. You can hear me right now? Yes, Your Honor. I can hear everything. She looked at Trevor. I could hear you every single day for the past 3 weeks. Every phone call. Every plan. Every cruel thing you said about me. Trevor sank back into his chair looking like he might be sick. Your Honor, Patricia said, standing up. We have extensive evidence to support our claims. Recordings, emails, financial documents, all of it proving Mr. Patterson's intent to defraud his wife and exploit her disability. Judge Williams held up a hand. I've reviewed your evidence, Miss Foster. It's quite compelling. She turned to Trevor's lawyer. Mr. Foster, does your client have any evidence to refute these allegations? Richard Foster looked at Trevor, who was staring at the table. Your Honor, we were not aware of the extent of the evidence. We'd like to request a continuance to prepare our response. Denied, the judge said flatly. Mr. Patterson has had ample time to be honest with his wife and with this court. Instead, according to these documents, he's been actively planning fraud. She shuffled through the papers in front of her. I'm issuing the following orders. All marital assets remain frozen pending full discovery. Mr. Patterson is to have no access to any joint accounts, the marital home, or the joint business except under supervision. Mrs. Patterson is granted exclusive use of the marital home. Your Honor, Richard Foster protested, my client needs access to funds. He has bills to pay. He should have thought of that before committing fraud, the judge said. Mr. Patterson can apply for limited access to funds for necessities, but he'll need to document every penny. Furthermore, I'm ordering a full forensic accounting of all marital assets, business accounts, and any accounts in the names of both parties or any third parties that may contain marital property. She looked at Trevor. Mr. Patterson, stand up. Trevor stood, his legs shaking. I'm also issuing a restraining order. You are not to contact your wife except through attorneys. You are not to go near the marital home. You are not to make any threats or attempts to intimidate her. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Trevor whispered. Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the district attorney's office for potential criminal prosecution. Fraud, forgery, and exploitation of a person with a disability are serious crimes in this state. Trevor looked like he might collapse. His lawyer grabbed his arm to steady him. We'll reconvene in 30 days for a full hearing, the judge said. Until then, these orders stand. Ms. Foster, please prepare a comprehensive accounting of all assets for the next hearing. Mr. Foster, your client needs to decide if he wants to settle this matter or go to trial, because I'll tell you right now, based on what I've seen, he's not going to fare well in front of a jury. She banged her gavel. Court is adjourned. As people started to leave the courtroom, Trevor tried one more time to approach Naomi. Naomi, please, we need to talk. This is all a big misunderstanding. The bailiff stepped between them. Sir, the judge just issued a restraining order. Step back. You can't do this to me, Trevor said, his voice rising. I took care of you for 7 years. I gave up my life for you. Naomi looked at him, then really looked at him and felt nothing but pity. You gave up nothing, she said calmly. I had a disability, Trevor. I wasn't dead. I was still here, still your wife, still deserving of respect and honesty. You could have divorced me if you were unhappy. Instead, you chose to lie, to steal, and to try to have me locked away. That says everything about who you are. I love you, he said desperately. We can fix this. No, Naomi said simply. We can't. And you don't love me. You never did. You loved what I could do for you, what I represented. But me, the person? You saw me as a burden the moment I became inconvenient. She turned to Patricia. Let's go. As they walked out of the courtroom, Naomi heard Trevor breaking down behind her, his lawyer trying to calm him down, telling him to be quiet, to stop making things worse. Outside the courthouse, Simone was waiting. When she saw Naomi's face, she smiled. "You did it?" "We did it," Naomi confirmed. "The judge ruled in my favor on everything." Simone pulled her into a hug. "I'm so proud of you." Patricia joined them. "That went even better than I expected." The judge was clearly disgusted by Trevor's actions. And the fact that she's referring this to criminal prosecution means Trevor is in serious trouble. "What happens now?" Naomi asked. "Now, Trevor has to decide if he wants to fight this or settle. My guess? His lawyer is going to strongly advise him to settle, because if this goes to trial, the evidence will become public record. His business reputation will be destroyed. His partners will likely sue him. Brooke might even face charges. He's going to want to make this go away quietly. And if he does want to settle? Then we negotiate, but from a position of strength. You get the house, the business, or a buyout of your share, spousal support, and restitution for everything he stole. He'll be lucky if we don't push for criminal charges on top of everything else." As they walked to the parking lot, Naomi's phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry. Trevor told me you didn't know about me. I didn't know he was planning all that stuff with the institution. I'm leaving him. I hope you can forgive me someday." It was from Brooke. Naomi showed the text to Patricia. "Should I respond?" "No," Patricia said. "She's trying to save herself. Let her lawyer deal with the fallout. Your focus needs to be on rebuilding your life, not managing hers." Naomi deleted the text. That evening, back at Simone's house, Naomi sat on the porch with a glass of wine, watching the stars come out. For the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe. Her phone rang. It was Dr. Roberts, her audiologist. "Naomi, I heard you had a court appearance today. How did it go?" "It went well," Naomi said. "The truth came out. That's all I wanted." "I'm so sorry you had to go through this," Dr. Roberts said. "When we did the surgery, I never imagined it would lead to you discovering something so painful." "It was painful," Naomi admitted. "But I'm grateful I know the truth now. I would have been grateful even if the truth had been good. At least now I can move forward with my eyes open. Or my ears open, I guess." Dr. Roberts laughed. "That's the spirit. And Naomi, you're one of the strongest people I've ever met. You're going to be just fine." After the call, Naomi sat in silence for a while. The night sounds were all around her: crickets, wind in the trees, distant traffic. Sounds she'd missed for so long. Trevor had tried to silence her, to erase her, to make her disappear. Instead, she'd found her voice. And she'd used it to tell the truth. The hardest part was over. Now came the healing. The next few weeks passed in a blur of legal meetings, document signings, and strategic planning. Patricia's team worked with forensic accountants to trace every penny Trevor had hidden or stolen. What they found was staggering. Over the past 2 years, Trevor had siphoned nearly $300,000 from their accounts. He'd taken out credit cards in both their names and maxed them out on purchases for Brooke. He'd sold equipment from their graphic design business and pocketed the money. He'd even taken out a second mortgage on their house without Naomi's knowledge or consent. "This is one of the most clear-cut cases of financial abuse I've ever seen," Patricia said during one of their meetings. "Trevor didn't just steal from you. He systematically dismantled your financial security while you trusted him completely." 2 weeks after the initial hearing, Richard Foster called Patricia with a settlement proposal. Trevor wanted to negotiate. They met in a conference room downtown. Patricia, Naomi, and Jerome on one side of the table, Richard Foster and a very different-looking Trevor on the other. Trevor had lost weight. His eyes were red-rimmed and sunken. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. He wouldn't look at Naomi. "My client would like to discuss a settlement," Richard Foster began. "He recognizes that mistakes were made. Crimes were committed," Patricia interrupted. "Let's be clear about what we're discussing here." Richard Foster cleared his throat. "My client is willing to offer Mrs. Patterson the house, free and clear, plus $50,000 from his personal savings account." Patricia laughed. "That's insulting. Your client stole over $300,000 from marital assets. He committed fraud and forgery. He planned to have Mrs. Patterson institutionalized to steal everything from her. And you're offering $50,000? The business is failing," Richard Foster said. "My client can't access the accounts, and without him running operations, clients are leaving. There won't be anything left to split." "Then he should have thought of that before he committed fraud," Patricia said coldly. She slid a paper across the table. "Here's our settlement proposal. Mrs. Patterson gets the house with no mortgage, Your client will refinance to remove her name and pay off the second mortgage he took out illegally. She gets 70% of the business value, which will be determined by an independent appraiser. She gets restitution for all stolen funds, the full $300,000. And she gets spousal support of $5,000 per month for the next 5 years while she rebuilds her career. Trevor looked up, then his face pale. I don't have that kind of money. You'll have to get it, Patricia said. Sell the business. Liquidate your assets. Get a job. I don't care how you do it, but you will pay what you owe. This is impossible, Trevor said, his voice cracking. You're trying to ruin me. Naomi spoke for the first time. You tried to have me locked away in an institution, Trevor. You tried to steal everything I had. You told your mistress I was worthless, that I was already dead. And now you want me to feel sorry for you because you have to face consequences? I made mistakes, Trevor said, finally looking at her. But I never meant to hurt you. I fell out of love. I didn't know how to tell you. And then Brooke came along and... You could have divorced me, Naomi said. That's how you end a marriage when you fall out of love. You don't steal. You don't commit fraud. You don't plan to have your wife declared incompetent so you can take everything. That's not falling out of love, Trevor. That's evil. I'm not evil, Trevor said, his voice desperate. I was just trying to start a new life. At the cost of destroying mine, Naomi said. So no, I don't care if this settlement ruins you. You tried to ruin me first. The meeting ended with no agreement. Richard Foster promised to consult with Trevor and get back to them. 3 days later, they received a counteroffer. Trevor would agree to the house and the business split, but he wanted the spousal support reduced to $2,000 a month for 2 years. Patricia advised Naomi to hold firm. He's trying to minimize his long-term liability. But you were married for 12 years. You supported his business dreams. You deserve full support while you rebuild. They countered with a slight reduction, $4,000 a month for 4 years. Trevor's lawyer came back and accepted. The final settlement hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. In the meantime, the district attorney's office announced they were pressing charges against Trevor for fraud and forgery. The news made the local papers. Trevor's business partners issued a statement distancing themselves from him and announcing they were dissolving the partnership. Brooke's husband filed for divorce and named Trevor in the filing as the cause of the marriage breakdown. It all came crashing down on Trevor at once. The day of the final settlement hearing, the courthouse was busier than usual. Word had spread about the case and several reporters were in the hallway hoping for a statement. Inside the courtroom, Judge Williams reviewed the settlement agreement carefully. Mrs. Patterson, do you agree to these terms? Yes, Your Honor, Naomi said clearly. And you understand that by accepting this settlement, you're agreeing not to pursue additional civil claims against your husband for these actions? Yes, Your Honor. Though I understand the criminal case will proceed separately. That's correct. The judge looked at Trevor. Mr. Patterson, do you agree to these terms? Yes, Your Honor, Trevor said quietly. And you understand that if you fail to make any of the payments outlined in this agreement, Mrs. Patterson can pursue enforcement through this court, and you could face additional penalties? Yes, Your Honor. Very well. Judge Williams signed the documents. The court approves this settlement. The marriage of Naomi Patterson and Trevor Patterson is hereby dissolved. The terms of the property division and support are as outlined in the settlement agreement. Mr. Patterson, you have 30 days to vacate any and all marital property and to begin the first support payment. She looked at Naomi. Mrs. Patterson, I don't usually editorialize, but I want you to know that your strength throughout this process has been remarkable. I wish you all the best in your future. Thank you, Your Honor, Naomi said, her voice steady but emotional. As they left the courtroom, reporters surrounded them. Patricia held up a hand. My client has a brief statement, but we won't be taking questions. Naomi stepped forward. She'd prepared for this moment, knowing that speaking publicly might help other people in similar situations. My name is Naomi Patterson. For 7 years, I was deaf after a car accident. My husband told me he would stand by me, that we would face this challenge together. But instead, he saw my disability as an opportunity. He planned to have me institutionalized so he could steal everything we'd built together. When my hearing returned, I discovered his betrayal. I'm speaking today because I want other people with disabilities to know that you are not vulnerable. You are not weak. You deserve respect, honesty, and dignity. If someone tries to exploit your disability, there are people who will fight for you. I found those people and I fought back. And I won. She paused, looking directly at the cameras. To anyone who thinks they can take advantage of someone because of a disability, you're wrong. We're stronger than you think. And we won't stay silent. The reporters started shouting questions, but Patricia guided Naomi away. They walked out of the courthouse together, Simone waiting by the car. That was perfect, Patricia said. You're going to help a lot of people with that statement. Later that evening, Naomi returned to the house, her house now, for the first time since discovering Trevor's betrayal. She walked through the rooms, seeing them differently now. This wasn't the home she'd shared with Trevor. This was her space, her sanctuary, her fresh start. She went into Trevor's office and began clearing it out. Every paper, every file, every trace of him went into boxes. She'd donate what she could, trash the rest. This room would become her art studio. As she worked, her phone rang. It was Patricia. I thought you'd want to know, Patricia said. Trevor just pled guilty to the fraud charges. He's accepting a plea deal, probation, restitution, community service. No jail time, but he'll have a felony on his record. How do you feel about that? Patricia asked. Naomi thought for a moment. I feel free. He's facing consequences. That's what matters. I don't need him to go to prison. I just need him out of my life. Well, you got your wish. And Naomi? You should be proud of yourself. Not everyone would have had the courage to fight like you did. After the call, Naomi walked outside to the backyard. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. She could hear birds singing, wind chimes from a neighbor's yard, children playing somewhere down the street. She closed her eyes and just listened. Really listened. For 7 years, she'd lived in silence. For 3 weeks, she'd lived in deception, pretending she couldn't hear while she gathered evidence against the man who'd betrayed her. Now, finally, she could hear everything. And she was free. Trevor was right about one thing. She was starting a new life. But it wasn't his new life. It was hers. And it was going to be beautiful. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, Naomi stood in what used to be Trevor's office, now transformed into her art studio. The walls were painted a soft cream color. Large windows let in natural light. Her paintings, bold, vibrant expressions of emotion and freedom, covered the walls. She was preparing for her first art show. A small gallery downtown had agreed to feature her work for a month. The show was called Unsilenced, and featured paintings she'd created since regaining her hearing. Simone walked in carrying coffee. These are incredible, Naomi. I still can't believe you painted all of these in just 3 months. I had a lot to say, Naomi replied, adding final touches to a canvas. 7 years of silence plus everything with Trevor. I needed to express it somehow. Her phone rang. It was Patricia. Just wanted to give you an update, Patricia said. Trevor made his first 3 support payments on time. The business sale went through last week, and you should see your portion of the proceeds in your account by tomorrow. It's looking like about $220,000. That's more than I expected, Naomi said. The business was worth more than Trevor let on. The forensic accountant found that too. Turns out Trevor was hiding assets from his business partners too, not just from you. They're suing him separately now. After the call, Naomi sat down at her desk. A beautiful antique piece she'd bought for herself with some of the settlement money. She opened her laptop and looked at the business plan she'd been working on. Patterson Designs. Her own interior design and art consultation business. She'd been working with a business coach to develop the concept, and she was almost ready to launch. The phone rang again. This time it was an unknown number. Naomi almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Naomi, it's Brooke. Naomi's first instinct was to hang up. But curiosity won. What do you want, Brooke? I wanted to apologize. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I've been in therapy, and my therapist said I need to make amends to the people I've hurt. So this is for you, not for me, Naomi said flatly. I guess so, Brooke admitted. But I am sorry. I was wrong. I was selfish. I knew Trevor was married and I didn't care. I told myself stories about how you didn't really love him, how the marriage was already over. I was wrong about all of that. Yes, you were, Naomi said. Is there anything else? Trevor and I aren't together anymore, Brooke said. In case you were wondering. He blamed me for everything. Said I seduced him, that it was all my fault. She paused. He's not a good person, Naomi. I see that now. I'm sorry I didn't see it before. I appreciate the apology, Naomi said. But I need you to understand something. I don't forgive you. I don't wish you harm, but I don't want any connection with you. What you and Trevor did caused me real pain. I'm healing from it, But that doesn't mean I need to welcome you into my life or offer you absolution. I understand, Brooke said quietly. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. After she hung up, Naomi sat for a moment, processing the call. She didn't feel angry. She didn't feel hurt. She felt nothing. Brooke was part of her past, and that past was closed. The next day, Naomi had lunch with a potential client. A young couple who just bought their first house and wanted help with interior design. They'd found her through her newly launched website. "We love your style," the wife said, showing Naomi her phone with the website on the screen. "It's bold but warm. Modern but comfortable. That's exactly what we want." By the end of lunch, Naomi had her first official client. She drove home feeling lighter than she had in years. That weekend was her art show opening. Simone helped her get ready, choosing a dress that was elegant but made a statement. Deep purple with gold accents. The gallery was packed. Friends from her art therapy group came. People from her new business networking group came. Even Dr. Roberts, her audiologist, showed up. "I had to see this for myself," Dr. Roberts said, looking at the paintings. "Naomi, these are extraordinary. You've captured something powerful here." The centerpiece of the show was a large painting Naomi had titled, "The Performance." It showed a woman in profile, her mouth closed, her eyes watchful, her expression calm. But behind her, reflected in a mirror, was the same woman screaming, her mouth wide open, her eyes fierce, her whole body expressing rage and power. It was Naomi's experience in one image. The silent, patient exterior she'd maintained while gathering evidence, and the roaring truth underneath. Several pieces sold that night. A local critic who'd attended wrote a glowing review that appeared in the paper the next day. Suddenly, people were talking about Naomi Patterson, the artist who'd transformed tragedy into triumph. About a month after the gallery show, Naomi was working in her studio when her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize, but it had a local area code. "This is Naomi," she answered. "Hi Naomi. My name is Christina Webb. I'm a social worker at the county office for people with disabilities. I read about your story in the paper and I was hoping we could talk." They met for coffee the next day. Christina was a woman in her 40s with warm eyes and an easy smile. "We've been working on a program to help people with disabilities understand their rights, especially when it comes to financial and legal protections," Christina explained. "Your case highlighted a lot of the issues we're trying to address. Would you be willing to share your story? Maybe speak at some of our workshops?" "What would that involve?" Naomi asked. "We hold monthly workshops for people with various disabilities and their families. We talk about legal rights, red flags for abuse, resources available. Your perspective as someone who experienced this kind of exploitation and fought back would be invaluable." Naomi thought about it. The idea of speaking publicly about something so personal was scary. But the idea of helping other people avoid what she'd gone through was compelling. "I'll do it," she decided. "When's the next workshop?" They exchanged business cards, and Isaiah suggested they grab coffee sometime to discuss potential collaboration. "I'm always looking for good designers to work with," he said. "Especially ones who actually care about the environmental impact of their choices." A week later they met at a coffee shop. What was supposed to be a one-hour business meeting turned into a 3-hour conversation about design, art, sustainability, and life. "So you're an artist too?" Isaiah asked, looking at Naomi's website on his phone. "These paintings are incredible." "Thank you," Naomi said. "The art is newer. I started painting seriously after." She paused, wondering how much to share. "After my divorce." "Ah," Isaiah said. "I'm sorry. Divorce is tough." "It was the best thing that ever happened to me," Naomi said honestly. "The marriage ending, I mean. Not the circumstances around it, but the result." Isaiah didn't press for details, which Naomi appreciated. Instead, he asked about her design philosophy, her business goals, her dreams for the future. By the end of the meeting, they'd outlined a potential collaboration on a mixed-use development Isaiah was designing. A builder was looking for someone to handle the interior design for the commercial spaces. It could be Naomi's first major commercial project. Over the next few weeks, they worked together on the proposal. They met at coffee shops, at Naomi's studio, at Isaiah's office. The project required them to think creatively about how to make the spaces functional, beautiful, and sustainable. "What if we use reclaimed wood here?" Naomi suggested, pointing to the plants. "It would add warmth and character while being eco-friendly." "I love that," Isaiah said. "And look, If we position the windows here and here, we can maximize natural light, which reduces energy costs. They won the project. The builder loved their collaborative approach and their commitment to sustainability. The night they found out, Isaiah suggested they celebrate with dinner. Not a working dinner, a real celebration. They went to a small restaurant with great food and a relaxed atmosphere. As they talked, Naomi realized she was enjoying herself in a way she hadn't in years. Isaiah was easy to talk to, genuinely interested in what she had to say, and funny in a quiet, observant way. "Can I ask you something?" Isaiah said as they were finishing dessert. "And feel free to tell me, it's none of my business." "Okay," Naomi said cautiously. "Earlier you said your divorce was the best thing that happened to you. What did you mean by that?" Naomi took a breath. She'd been wondering when this conversation would come. "My ex-husband tried to have me declared mentally incompetent so he could steal everything we'd built together. He was planning to put me in a care facility and take everything." Isaiah's expression shifted from curiosity to shock. "What? Why would he think he could do that?" "Because I was deaf," Naomi said. "I lost my hearing in a car accident 7 years ago. My ex saw my disability as a weakness he could exploit." "Was?" Isaiah asked gently. "You were deaf. I had surgery. My hearing came back. And the first thing I heard was him plotting against me with his mistress." Naomi gave him a brief version of the story, enough to explain but not so much that it overwhelmed the evening. When she finished, Isaiah was quiet for a moment. "I don't even know what to say. I'm sorry you went through that. But I'm glad you fought back." "Me too," Naomi said. "For what it's worth," Isaiah said, "your ex-husband was an idiot. You're one of the smartest, most talented people I've met. And I would never have guessed you'd only been hearing again for less than a year. You seem so comfortable." "I'm relearning everything," Naomi admitted. "Sometimes sounds still startle me. Loud noises can be overwhelming. But I'm grateful every day that I can hear again." They left the restaurant and walked to where they'd parked. At her car, Isaiah paused. "I really enjoyed tonight," he said. "Not just as a business celebration but as, well, as a date. If that's what this was." Naomi smiled. "Was this a date?" "I'd like it to be," Isaiah said. "If you're interested. No pressure though. I know you're probably not looking for anything right now." Naomi thought about it. She hadn't been looking. She'd been focused on rebuilding her life, her business, her independence. The last thing she'd planned on was developing feelings for someone. But Isaiah was different. He was kind without being overbearing. He respected her independence. He treated her like an equal partner, not someone who needed to be taken care of. And most importantly, he made her laugh. "I think I'd like that too," she said. They started seeing each other regularly. Coffee meetings turned into dinners. Dinners turned into weekend hikes and museum visits. They moved slowly, both of them cautious for different reasons. Isaiah had been divorced 3 years earlier, an amicable split with no kids, but he was careful about getting serious with anyone. Naomi appreciated the pace. She wasn't ready to rush into anything. She needed to be sure to trust her judgment again after being so wrong about Trevor. But Isaiah made it easy. He never pushed. He never made her feel like she owed him anything. When she told him she needed time or space, he respected it without question. 2 months into their relationship, Isaiah invited Naomi to a gallery opening for one of his clients. An architect friend had designed a new community center, and they were celebrating the grand opening. At the event, Naomi met Isaiah's friends and colleagues. They were warm and welcoming, treating her like she'd always been part of the group. One of Isaiah's former colleagues, a woman named Rachel, pulled Naomi aside. "I just want to say, it's really good to see Isaiah happy again," Rachel said. "After his divorce he kind of closed himself off. But with you he's like the old Isaiah we all knew." "He makes me happy too," Naomi admitted. "Good," Rachel said, smiling. "You two are cute together." As the evening wound down, Isaiah and Naomi walked through the new community center. The design was beautiful, lots of natural light, open spaces, accessible features for people with various disabilities. "You did amazing work on this," Naomi said, admiring the details. "Thanks," Isaiah said. "This project was important to me. I wanted to create a space where everyone feels welcome, regardless of their abilities or backgrounds." They sat on a bench in the center's courtyard looking up at the stars. "Can I tell you something?" Isaiah said. "Of course. When I first met you I thought you were impressive. Talented, smart, beautiful. But the more I get to know you, the more I see how strong you are. What you went through with your ex, what you survived and how you fought back. That takes real courage. You could have given up. You could have let him win. But you didn't. And now look at you. Running your own business, helping other people, creating this whole new life. You're incredible, Naomi. Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. I don't feel incredible most days. I just feel like I'm doing what I have to do. That's what makes you incredible, Isaiah said softly. He took her hand. I know we're taking things slow and I respect that. But I want you to know that I'm in this. Whatever this becomes, I'm here. Naomi squeezed his hand. I'm here too. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, just being together. Later that night, Naomi lay in bed thinking about how much her life had changed. A year ago, she'd been trapped in a marriage with a man who was plotting to destroy her. Now, she had her own business, her independence, and the beginnings of something real with someone who respected and valued her. She wasn't naive. She knew that relationships could fail, that people could change, that nothing was guaranteed. But she also knew that she was different now. Stronger. More aware. She would never again ignore warning signs or trust blindly. Isaiah would have to earn her trust just as she would earn his. They would build something together, slowly and carefully, with honesty and respect. It wouldn't be like what she had with Trevor. Would be better. Because it would be real. A year and a half after her divorce, Naomi stood in the lobby of a new office building, looking at the sign on the door, Patterson Designs, Interior Design and Art Consultation. She'd done it. She had an actual office now, not just working from her home studio. 2 employees, a junior designer named Faith and an administrative assistant named Marcus. Wait, I can't use Marcus. Let me change that to Tyler. No, wait, I can't make mistakes with continuity. Let me think of a new name. Carlos. An administrative assistant named Carlos. Her business had grown beyond what she'd imagined. The commercial project with Isaiah had led to 3 more. She'd been featured in a local design magazine. She'd done more workshops on disability rights and had been asked to join an advisory board for the county office for people with disabilities. Simone arrived with a bottle of champagne and a huge smile. Office warming gift, she said, holding up the bottle. I'm so proud of you, girl. They cracked open the champagne using coffee mugs since Naomi hadn't brought glasses yet, and toasted to new beginnings. Remember when we sat in my living room 18 months ago and you told me about Trevor? Simone said. I was so angry I wanted to fight him myself. But look at you now. You didn't just survive what he did. You thrived. I couldn't have done it without you, Naomi said. You were there every step of the way. That's what friends do, Simone said. But this is all you. You built this. Later that day, Isaiah stopped by to see the new office. He brought lunch and flowers, a bouquet of sunflowers because he knew they were Naomi's favorite. This is perfect, he said, looking around the space. It feels like you. Creative, professional, welcoming. They ate lunch in Naomi's new office, and Isaiah shared his own news. His firm had been selected to design a new elementary school, a project that would take 2 years but would be incredibly rewarding. I want to create spaces where kids feel safe and inspired, he said. Where they want to learn. You'll do that, Naomi said confidently. Your designs always consider how people feel in the spaces, not just how the spaces look. They'd been together for over 8 months now, and their relationship had deepened into something solid and real. They'd met each other's families. They'd traveled together. They'd navigated disagreements and come out stronger. Naomi had introduced Isaiah to the disability rights community, and he'd started incorporating more accessible design features into all his projects. Isaiah had introduced Naomi to his love of hiking and nature photography, and she discovered a whole new source of inspiration for her art. I've been thinking, Isaiah said as they were packing up the lunch containers. My lease is up in 2 months. I was thinking about looking for a new place, something bigger. That's exciting, Naomi said. Are you thinking of buying? Maybe, Isaiah said. I was actually wondering, would you want to look at places together? Not necessarily to move in together right away, but to see what's out there? Get a sense of what we might want if we decide to take that step eventually. Naomi felt a flutter of nerves, but it wasn't fear. It was excitement. I'd like that, she said. Let's look. Over the next few weeks, they looked at houses together on weekends. It was casual, just exploring possibilities, but it felt significant. They were talking about a future together. One Saturday they found a house that made them both stop and stare. It was a craftsman-style home with big windows, hardwood floors, and a large backyard. The kitchen needed updating and the bathrooms were dated, but the bones were good. We could knock out this wall, Isaiah said, gesturing to the space between the kitchen and dining room. Open up the whole first floor. And this room could be a studio, Naomi said, looking at a sun-filled space off the main hallway. Perfect light for painting. They looked at each other and laughed. We're doing it again, Naomi said. Planning renovations on a house neither of us has bought. Future planning, Isaiah said with a grin. That evening they had dinner at Naomi's house. As they were cleaning up, Isaiah brought up something that had been on his mind. I know we've been taking things slow, he said. And I appreciate that. I don't want to rush you. But I need you to know that I'm serious about this, about us. I love you, Naomi. I think I have for a while now. Naomi's heart skipped. She'd been feeling the same way but had been afraid to say it out loud, afraid of being vulnerable again after Trevor. I love you too, she said softly. Isaiah pulled her into a hug and they stood there in her kitchen, holding each other. I'm not Trevor, Isaiah said quietly. I know you know that, but I need to say it. I will never lie to you. I will never try to control you or take advantage of you. If I ever make you feel uncomfortable or disrespected, I want you to tell me. Your independence, your strength, those aren't threats to me. They're part of what I love about you. Naomi pulled back to look at him, tears in her eyes. I know you're not Trevor. That's why I can do this. That's why I can open my heart again. You've shown me through your actions that you're someone I can trust. They moved to the living room and talked late into the night about their hopes, their fears, their dreams for the future. It was the kind of conversation that Trevor had never wanted to have, the kind that built real intimacy. A month later, Naomi received an unexpected email. It was from a woman named Dr. Jennifer Ellis, a researcher at a major university. Dear Miss Patterson, I came across your story through the disability rights workshops you've been conducting. I'm a researcher studying the intersection of disability, financial abuse, and legal protections. I would love to interview you for my study. Your case is remarkable, and I believe your experience could help inform better policies and protections for people with disabilities. Would you be willing to participate? Naomi forwarded the email to Patricia, her lawyer, asking for advice. Patricia called her back within an hour. This could be really good. Academic research often influences policy changes. If your story can help create better laws to protect people with disabilities, that's powerful. Naomi agreed to the interview. A week later, Dr. Ellis came to Naomi's office, and they talked for 3 hours. Dr. Ellis was thorough, asking detailed questions about the timeline of events, the legal process, the emotional impact, the resources that helped Naomi fight back. What you did was extraordinary, Dr. Ellis said. Most people in your situation don't have the resources or the support system to fight back. What factors do you think made the difference for you? Naomi thought about it. I had a good lawyer. I had a friend who supported me unconditionally. I had evidence because I was able to hear and gather it. But I think the biggest factor was that I got angry. I got angry enough to fight instead of accepting what was happening to me. Do you think the fact that your hearing returned was essential to your ability to fight back? Dr. Ellis asked. In my specific case, yes, Naomi said. But I don't think it has to be. People with disabilities can fight back. We just need better systems in place to help us. We need easier access to legal support. We need financial institutions to have better safeguards. We need care providers and family members to be educated about the warning signs of abuse. The interview was exhausting but fulfilling. Dr. Ellis promised to send Naomi the published research when it was complete. That evening, Naomi and Isaiah had dinner with Simone and her new boyfriend, Andre. They went to a restaurant with live music, and for the first time in years, Naomi found herself on the dance floor, moving to music she could actually hear. Isaiah was a terrible dancer, which made it even more fun. They laughed and moved without any self-consciousness, just enjoying the moment. Watching them, Simone leaned over to Andre and said, "A year and a half ago, Naomi was in the worst situation of her life. Look at her now. That's what resilience looks like." Later, as Isaiah drove Naomi home, she looked out at the city lights and felt a profound sense of gratitude. "What are you thinking about?" Isaiah asked. "How different my life is now," Naomi said. "How different I am. Trevor tried to break me. He tried to make me think I was worthless, that my disability made me a burden. But instead of breaking me, all of that made me realize how strong I really am." "You are strong," Isaiah agreed. "But you're also kind, talented, generous, and brave. Don't forget those parts too." Naomi smiled. She was all of those things. And she was finally in a place where she could see it herself. The future was uncertain, as all futures are. But Naomi knew that whatever came next, she could handle it. She'd survived the worst betrayal imaginable and had built something beautiful from the ashes. She was no longer the woman who had lost her hearing and lost herself in the process. She was no longer the woman who had been deceived and almost destroyed by someone she trusted. She was Naomi Patterson, business owner, artist, advocate, survivor, and she was just getting started. 2 years after discovering Trevor's betrayal, Naomi stood at the podium in a community center ballroom, looking out at an audience of about 200 people. She was the keynote speaker at the annual Disability Rights Conference, and her topic was From Victim to Victor: How I Reclaimed My Life After Financial Abuse. Her hands were steady as she adjusted the microphone. Public speaking had gotten easier with practice, and she had an important message to share. 2 years ago, she began, I overheard my husband plotting to have me institutionalized so he could steal everything I owned. I say, overheard, because he didn't know I could hear him. Been deaf for 7 years, but I just recovered my hearing through surgery. For 3 weeks, I pretended I was still deaf while I gathered evidence of his betrayal and his crimes. Today, I stand before you as a successful business owner, a disability rights advocate, and a woman who refused to be silenced. The audience applauded, and Naomi launched into her story. She told it dozens of times now at workshops and conferences, but it never got easier. The pain was still real, but so was the triumph. After her speech, people lined up to talk to her. A young woman with a cochlear implant thanked her with tears in her eyes. An older man whose sister had been financially abused by her ex-husband asked for advice. A social worker requested information about starting similar workshops in her county. Naomi spoke with each person, offering encouragement, resources, and hope. Isaiah was waiting in the back of the room, beaming with pride. When the crowd finally cleared, he came over and hugged her. You were incredible, he said. Every time you tell your story, you help someone. You know that, right? I hope so, Naomi said. That's why I keep doing it. They left the conference center and drove to their home, the Craftsman house they'd looked at together over a year ago. They'd bought it together 6 months ago and had been slowly renovating it, doing a lot of the work themselves on weekends. The kitchen was finally finished with new cabinets, updated appliances, and an island that Naomi had designed. Her studio was set up in the sun-filled room off the main hallway, and Isaiah's home office occupied the space above the garage. As Naomi walked through the house, she marveled at how much her life had changed. She'd gone from a woman trapped in a deceptive marriage to a woman who was truly happy and free. Her phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. Have you seen the news? Turn on Channel 5. Naomi grabbed the remote and turned on the television. A news anchor was reporting on a new state law that had just been signed. The bill, which passed unanimously, creates stronger protections for people with disabilities who are vulnerable to financial exploitation. It requires mandatory reporting by financial institutions and healthcare providers when they suspect abuse, and it establishes a special victims fund to help people who have been exploited rebuild their lives. The law is named after Naomi Patterson, whose case of financial abuse by her ex-husband brought national attention to this issue. Naomi sat down, stunned. Isaiah came to sit beside her, taking her hand. The Patterson Protection Act, the news anchor continued. State Senator Williams, who sponsored the bill, says Patterson's courage in speaking out about her experience was the catalyst for this legislation. The broadcast cut to a video of Senator Williams speaking at a press conference. Naomi Patterson's story showed us how vulnerable people with disabilities can be to financial abuse, even by those who are supposed to love and protect them. This law ensures that there are systems in place to catch this abuse early and to help victims fight back. We owe Ms. Patterson a debt of gratitude for her advocacy. Naomi's phone started ringing. Reporters wanted statements. Disability rights organizations wanted to congratulate her. Even Dr. Ellis, the researcher, called to say that her study had been instrumental in shaping the legislation. That evening, Naomi and Isaiah had a quiet dinner at home to process everything. A law named after you, Isaiah said, shaking his head in amazement. Do you realize how incredible that is? You're going to protect people for years to come. It doesn't feel real, Naomi admitted. When I was gathering evidence against Trevor, I just wanted to save myself. I never imagined it would lead to something like this. That's the thing about courage, Isaiah said. It ripples out. You protected yourself, which gave you the strength to help others, which led to policy changes that will protect even more people. That's legacy, Naomi. The next day, Naomi was interviewed by several news outlets. She made sure to credit Patricia, Dr. Ellis, and the disability rights advocates who had worked to shape the legislation. She also made sure to emphasize that fighting back wasn't always possible for everyone. I was lucky, she said in one interview. I had resources, support, and evidence. Not everyone has those advantages. That's why laws like this are so important. They create safety nets for people who can't fight back alone. A week after the law passed, Naomi received a letter. It was from an attorney representing Trevor. Dear Miss Patterson, I am writing on behalf of my client, Trevor Patterson. Mr. Patterson has seen the recent news coverage regarding the law that bears your name. He wanted me to convey his deep regret for his actions. He understands that he caused you tremendous pain and harm, and he takes full responsibility for his behavior. He is in therapy working to understand why he acted as he did, and he is committed to making amends where possible. Mr. Patterson does not expect your forgiveness, nor is he requesting any contact with you. He simply wanted you to know that he is sorry and that he hopes you have found peace and happiness. Respectfully, Attorney Mark Stevens. Naomi read the letter twice, then handed it to Isaiah. How do you feel about this? Isaiah asked after reading it. Honestly, I feel nothing, Naomi said. I'm glad he's in therapy. I hope he becomes a better person. But his apology doesn't change anything for me. I've already moved on. She filed the letter away and didn't think about it again. 2 months later, Patterson Designs celebrated its second anniversary. The business had grown to 4 employees now, and they just landed their biggest contract yet, designing the interiors for a new hospital wing focused on pediatric care. Naomi threw a small party in the office for her team and close friends. Simone, Isaiah, Patricia, and Dr. Roberts all came. Even Christina Webb from the county office for people with disabilities stopped by. I have news, Christina said, pulling Naomi aside. We've been funded to expand our disability rights program to 3 more counties. And we want to hire someone to lead the initiative. Someone who understands the issues personally and has experience speaking and advocating. Someone like you. Are you offering me a job? Naomi asked, surprised. It would be part-time, Christina said. 20 hours a week. You could still run your business. But we need someone with your expertise and your passion. What do you say? Naomi didn't have to think long. Yes, absolutely yes. Over the next few months, Naomi balanced her design work with her advocacy work. It was exhausting at times, but it was also fulfilling in a way she'd never experienced before. She and Isaiah talked seriously about getting married. Not because they felt they had to, but because they wanted to. They wanted to make the commitment official, to celebrate the partnership they'd built together. They got engaged on a hiking trail, one of their favorite places. No elaborate proposal, no grand gesture. Just Isaiah getting down on one knee on a mountain overlook and asking Naomi if she'd marry him. Yes, she said without hesitation. Absolutely yes. They planned a small wedding for the following spring. Just close friends and family, a simple ceremony in their backyard, a celebration of love and partnership built on honesty and respect. One evening, about 3 weeks before the wedding, Naomi and Isaiah were finishing up renovations on the last room in their house. A guest room they'd been putting off. I've been thinking about something, Isaiah said as they painted the walls a soft blue color. I know we said we'd wait a few years before seriously discussing kids, but how would you feel about adopting or fostering at some point? Naomi paused mid-brushstroke. They talked about children in abstract terms but never concretely. I'd love that, she said. Why specifically adopting or fostering? I know there are so many kids out there who need good homes, Isaiah said. Kids with disabilities especially often have a harder time finding families, and I think we could offer something special. You understand what it's like to navigate the world with a disability. You know how important it is to have people who believe in you. Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. That's a beautiful idea. Let's do it. Not right away but soon. As they continued painting, Naomi reflected on the conversation. 3 years ago, she'd been married to a man who saw her disability as a weakness to exploit. Now she was engaged to a man who saw her experiences as a gift she could share with a child who needed understanding and support. The difference was staggering. The day before the wedding, Simone came over to help Naomi get everything ready. I can't believe you're getting married tomorrow, Simone said, hanging up Naomi's simple, elegant wedding dress. Do you remember that day in your kitchen when you told me what Trevor had done? I was so angry, so scared for you. I didn't know how you'd get through it. I didn't know either, Naomi admitted. But I did. We did. You were there every step of the way. Always, Simone said, hugging her friend. I'm so happy for you, Naomi. You deserve this. You deserve all the happiness in the world. The wedding day was perfect. Sunny but not too hot, a light breeze, and their backyard looked beautiful with simple decorations and flowers everywhere. Naomi walked down the makeshift aisle with no one giving her away, because she belonged to herself. She'd reclaimed her life on her own terms and she was choosing to share it with Isaiah, not because she needed him but because she loved him. Patricia officiated the ceremony, because she'd been there at Naomi's lowest point and deserved to be there for this moment of joy. Marriage, Patricia said, is a partnership built on trust, respect, and honesty. Naomi and Isaiah understand this better than most. They've both been hurt. They've both been cautious. But they've chosen each other with open eyes and open hearts. That's real love. When Isaiah and Naomi exchanged vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the backyard. "I promise to respect your independence," Isaiah said. "I promise to celebrate your strength. I promise to be honest with you always. I promise to build a life with you, not for you. I promise to love you exactly as you are. I promise to trust you," Naomi said. "I promise to let you in even when it's scary. I promise to build our life together as equals. I promise to never take our partnership for granted. I promise to love you with all the strength I've discovered in myself." After the ceremony, as they celebrated with their friends and family, Naomi took a moment to stand at the edge of the yard and look at the scene. Everyone she loved was there, laughing and talking and celebrating. Isaiah came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking about how far I've come," Naomi said. 3 years ago, I was standing in my kitchen hearing my husband plot to destroy my life. It was the worst moment of my existence. But it led to all of this. It led to me finding my strength, my voice, my purpose. It led to you. "I'm glad you found me," Isaiah said softly. "I'm glad I found myself first," Naomi replied. "That made it possible to find you." They stood there together, watching their friends and family celebrate, listening to the sounds of joy and laughter and music. Naomi thought about Trevor briefly. She wondered if he'd heard about her wedding, if he knew she'd moved on and built something beautiful. Then she decided she didn't care. Trevor was part of her past, a chapter that had closed. He taught her what she didn't want, and in doing so, had helped her recognize what she did want when she found it. A few months after the wedding, Naomi ran into someone she never expected to see again. She was at the grocery store, picking up ingredients for dinner, when she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Naomi?" She turned and found herself face to face with Trevor. He looked different. Thinner, older, tired. He was wearing jeans and a polo shirt, not the expensive suits he used to favor. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "Hi, Trevor," Naomi said finally, her voice calm. I didn't know you still shopped here," he said awkwardly. "I just moved back to town. New job. Fresh start." "Good for you," Naomi said simply. "I saw the news," Trevor said. "About the law. About your business. About your wedding. You've done really well for yourself." "I have," Naomi agreed. Trevor looked down at his shoes. "I wrote you a letter. My lawyer sent it. I don't know if you got it." "I got it." "Did you? I mean, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but—" He trailed off. Naomi looked at the man she'd once loved, the man who'd betrayed her, the man who'd tried to destroy her life. She felt nothing but indifference. "Trevor, I hope you're doing better," she said honestly. "I hope you've learned from what happened. I hope you're getting help and becoming a better person. But I don't have anything else to say to you. That part of my life is over." "I understand," Trevor said quietly. "For what it's worth, I really am sorry. I was selfish and cruel. I took advantage of you when you were vulnerable, and there's no excuse for that. I'm glad you found happiness. You deserve it." Naomi nodded. "Goodbye, Trevor." She walked away without looking back, her cart full of groceries for the life she was building, the life she'd fought for and earned. When she got home, Isaiah was in the kitchen starting dinner. "You'll never believe who I ran into at the store," she said, putting the bags down. "Who?" "Trevor." Isaiah stopped chopping vegetables and looked at her. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Naomi said, and she meant it. "It was weird, but I'm fine. I felt nothing when I saw him. No anger, no pain, nothing. Just indifference." "That's progress," Isaiah said. "It is," Naomi agreed. "It means I'm really done. I've really moved on." That evening, they had dinner on their back porch, talking about their upcoming vacation and the new foster care training classes they'd signed up for. The conversation was easy, comfortable, full of plans and dreams and possibilities. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Naomi listened to the sounds around her. Birds singing their evening songs. Wind chimes from the neighbor's yard. Isaiah's voice telling a funny story from work. Her own laughter. 3 years ago, she'd been deaf and trapped in a marriage built on lies. 2 years ago, she'd regained her hearing and discovered the worst betrayal imaginable. Now she was free. Truly free. She had a successful business she'd built from nothing. She had meaningful work advocating for people with disabilities. She had a law named after her that would protect vulnerable people for years to come. She had friends who loved her. She had a husband who respected and cherished her. Most importantly, she had herself. She'd discovered a strength she didn't know she possessed. She'd learned that she could survive anything. She'd proven that disability didn't mean weakness, that vulnerability didn't mean helplessness. Trevor had tried to silence her. He tried to make her disappear. Instead, she'd found her voice and used it to change the world, one person at a time. She'd won. Not just the legal battle, but the bigger battle, the battle to reclaim her life, her power, her future. As Isaiah reached over and took her hand, Naomi smiled. The past was behind her. The future stretched out ahead, full of promise and possibility. She was Naomi Patterson Coleman now. Business owner, artist, advocate, wife, soon-to-be foster mother, survivor, thriver, and she was living her best life. The revenge she'd sought wasn't about destroying Trevor. It was about building something so beautiful from the ashes of what he'd tried to destroy.